Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Episode number 33 of Material Issues. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records. I can't believe we've got 33 episodes underway now. Joining me, as always, my very good friend and president, leader, controller, master of the International Pop Overthrow Festival, Mr. David Bash. How are you tonight, David?
I'm doing very well, Mark. How are you?
Fantastic. You look great. The Paisley's working. It sounds great. I'm loving
Well,
it all.
um, it's day 4 of my diet, or day
Nice.
5 rather. So far, so good. It's not. It's There are moments where I'm feeling like I'm gonna lose my resolve, but I let them pass, and I end up continuing. And I'm pretty sure that that'll be the course of action for as long as I need it to be.
Well, part of the grand plan. I'm going to wait about a month, and then I'm going to replace your large tag in a shirt I'm sending you. It's an extra large tag, but I'm going to mark it large. So when
All
you get
right.
it and put it on, it's going to feel really big on you, and it will make you feel really good about the whole
I
process.
really look forward to that. But I mean, even after 5 days, I can feel a difference.
Yeah.
You know,
Good.
you don't. I don't have all that junk in my belly, and that's refreshing for
Oh,
sure.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure that you're not as bloated with
No,
just gassier things and just bad crap. And
right.
I think that, and you once you get to that 2 week little hump where you get over all that, and then you start getting on that path again, your mind is set on that, and you see the results, then you start feeling much better. So keep at it, buddy.
Yeah. So
Keep at it.
onward and upward.
Yeah.
Um, Beyond that, I'm very excited. I'm working on my best of 2021 lists. I've been re-listening to a lot of things. First of all, let me say this. There have been an amazing number of very good to excellent albums this year. And I'm sure in large part due to COVID. So I always like to look for silver linings in any bad situation. And while COVID doesn't have too many of them, this was one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fact that people were not able to go out and they weren't able to go and perform, so they spent their allocated music time more on recording. And I'll tell you, the results are palpable, and it's been great. Um,
I call it
all
the Scandinavian effect because
and
I talk to a lot of my Scandinavian friends and artists, and I say, "Why are you guys so good? Why is the production value?" And they're like, "Well, 8 months out of the year, it's too damn cold to go outside, so we're always inside working on the music." And I'm like, well, it makes sense.
No, that's a huge factor. Kind of like why there's so many great baseball players coming out of California, because they can
Yeah,
play all year round.
they can play
So
year round.
they have a much better chance to get practiced.
Yeah, yeah,
So
indeed.
there's that. Also, I'm pleased to say that there's still a very small percentage of bands who are doing download only releases,
Uh,
and that's been great too. I mean, my policy is that I don't rank um, albums that are download only. And I have nothing against downloads. I think they're great. But I also want the option of a physical release, whether it be vinyl, CD, cassette, even 8-track, as my good friend Steve Rosenbaum has
yeah.
done. That's all okay. Well, 8-track, I mean, I need something to play it on. So, but hey, it's a release, and I'm ranking it.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I understand why people are doing download only, but at the same time, I also realize that you don't have to press that many CDs. You can do probably as few as 50 now, and I don't think it would be that hard to sell enough of them to at least break even.
Right. Yeah.
So bands might as well go for that. I know a lot of bands have been trying to do vinyl, and there's been a delay. So if somebody, let's say, released an album this year, download only, if it comes out on vinyl next year, I'll rank it next year.
Right.
Whatever year the physical product comes out in, that's the year I'm ranking it. But
That's
anyway, I'm very pleased that there have been so many releases, so many physical releases, and so many good ones.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't even know what my number one for the year is yet.
Wow.
I have three candidates, possibly four. I'm going to be giving all of them a very good listen. And by the 12th, by next week, when I reveal them on the next episode of Material Issues, I'll certainly know what number one is going to be.
Which is what's going to happen next week.
Yes.
I won't really be a part of the show because I've got another commitment. I'll be kind of on the fringes, but it's going to be a really interesting show where you are going to be counting down, Dick Clark style, your top releases in many different formats, whether it's EPs, LPs, CDs. Personally,
I don't know about Dick Clark style, but
or what is it, Casey Kasem?
But I probably am the world's oldest teenager now that he's gone.
Yeah, it's probably. I think you were running close second, and now you're now number one.
Definitely the world's oldest adolescent, anyway.
But it's going to be a great show, and I think it'll be really interesting, and people need to tune in and let everybody know. So
you know what? I'm not hearing you well, but I realize what I need to do. Hold on 1 minute. I will be right back.
That's very good. As you can see, David's modeling his latest paisley wear. It's purple paisley. I always said he should start a line of his own shirts, paisley wear, bash wear. And with him not in the picture, you can see a lot of the box sets and things that are all around his room. Quite the collection of box sets. But yeah, he's got his purple paisley going on.
Hold on here. I'm going to lower the volume a little before I put my earbuds in.
But as he's putting his earbuds in, but as we're saying, next week is going to be a great show. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel or join the Facebook group. And so you're notified when David's going to be on next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. And he's going to count down his top releases across the board for 2021. I'm already a little partial to the number one overall Facebook interview program. I think I've listed my top one that a couple of days ago.
You did.
I did. Got a lot of good responses from that as well. But yeah, so join David next week, and you'll find out what is the best of 2021.
As much as I can get in an hour, yeah.
Yeah, very good.
But that's for next week. For now, I'm honored to introduce our next guest, somebody with whom I have some familiarity. He's lived a very, very interesting life. He fought in the 1948 War of Independence for Israel. He holds patents. He's made a hell of a lot of money in the real estate biz. He was on President Jimmy Carter's financial committee. He greatly helped build the Great Synagogue of Jerusalem. And he has written several books, some of which he'll talk about today. And I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So hopefully you'll all be entertained. I'm sure you will. Would you please give a huge welcome to my dad, Michael Bash.
And there he is.
Here I'm on.
Good evening, Mr. Bash.
Hi, how you doing?
Outstanding. I hate it when we have guests.
You forgot about my St. Jude charity. I used to raise money with Danny Thomas, 10 to 20 million a year.
Danny Thomas, the St. Jude charity. Wow. I hate when we have guests that haven't done anything. God almighty.
I remember that. And I remember Danny Thomas complaining that Jerry Lewis was getting paid $1 million a year to do his, and Danny wasn't getting anything.
Right, that is very true. He got 800,000, not $1 million.
800,000. At that time, that was a hell of a lot of money.
Yes, absolutely.
No, well, nice. Well, hopefully you've got some secrets to tell us about David when he was young. We'll get to that in a little bit.
please. No. No, no,
Well,
no.
David
Everybody
was my
wants to
first
know.
son.
He was your first or fourth?
My first child, yes.
Ah, okay.
Number one.
Number
I'm
one.
surprised after me you didn't stop.
Yeah.
That was 63 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your part in bringing David to us all 63 years ago. We do appreciate that moment.
Dad,
Oh,
tell us what it was like growing up in Israel when it was still Palestine.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Jerusalem. At that time, there was only 40,000 Jews in the city of Jerusalem. And now there's 1 million people there. When I was there, it was only 40,000. But it's a very interesting city because it's a center of Judaism and Christianity. When you stand there on a high level there and watch what's going on in the city, you feel it in your body that you're in a holy place. It's almost unbelievable how influential the city of Jerusalem is on people. And it's been like this for many, many, many years. And it's a beautiful city. There's a lot of beautiful areas there. And a lot of them are brand new because, as I said, there was only 40,000 when I was there, and now there's 1 million.
wow.
And in the whole country, there's 8 million Jews and about 2 million Muslims and some Christians, not that many. And but what happens, like Christmas time, people come to Bethlehem, Christians, to see where Jesus was born. I used to go there a lot. Except this year, because of the pandemic, it was really a shame. Only very few people came there. But every year it's mobbed. Everybody wants to see Jesus' place. There is a place above Bethlehem that's called Rachel's Height, because from there you look down to Bethlehem and you see Rachel's tomb. To the right and to the left, you see where Jesus was born. So when I was in the army, they sent me on a mission because they didn't have any connection, any radio electronic connection. And they sent me from Jerusalem with pigeons, male pigeons. And I had to carry them all the way to Rachel's Height. Every time I was walking through a tunnel, every time it hit a road, I had to go up and cross the road. Every time I went up, they shot at me, the Egyptians and the Jordanians from both sides. Thank God they missed. I know you're sure they missed. I'm here. So I had to cross
And I
the
wouldn't
road
be here.
3 times, and then I got over there and I gave them the pigeons. So if they had any problem, they can always use a male pigeon to. In today's day and age, anyway. Today, that's a tourist attraction. They built a few hotels over there, and it's always full of people. Very, very beautiful. At that time, it was just a small a kibbutz. You know what a kibbutz is.
Yeah. So you were really the original text messenger with pigeons, except it was with pigeons and bullets flying at you. Thank goodness we have cell phones today.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. But we already have them. I always was interested in electronics, and when I was a kid, I had my own station. I called it the Voice of the Merry Soldier, and I used to transmit to all the kids around Israel. Then, when I went to the army, I had a station also that was called the Voice of the Merry Soldier, which again, all the soldiers will listen to. When I came out of the army, I had a new station. It was called the Voice of the Jama'ah. Jama'ah in Arabic means the friends, and it became popular in Hebrew in Israel. Then the government didn't allow me to use the transmitter. I had to stop, and that was it. But in the meantime, I had a lot of fun, and I have a lot of friends that came and performed and made it very, very interesting. Then they sent me to Mount Scopus, which is a mountain overlooking Jerusalem. In fact, a famous uh, writer of music wrote a song about Mount Scopus. It's called Me'al Pisgat Haratzofim. From the heights of Mount Scopus, I see you, Jerusalem, and I'm bowing to you. So,
Nice.
I lost it. I touched it by mistake. Wait just 1 minute.
We can
That's
still
all right.
hear you.
We
Yeah,
can
no,
still
but
hear you. Joshua will help you get it back on if he's still there.
yeah, no.
There you go.
He's here, so he helped me out.
You're back.
So
Okay,
I'm back on.
good.
So,
Well, Dad, when prior to the 48 war, there obviously must have been just a real passion for Israel becoming independent. Was that something you were feeling? Did you know that the war was coming?
yes, I belong to the underground. I wasn't at the age of 13. I learned how to shoot in all kinds of guns because we used to get guns wherever we could. So I used all kinds of guns from different countries in Europe. I could shoot all of the, not only me, a lot of all my friends. So from age 13, I was really in some sort of an army, being prepared for the War of Independence in 48. Now in 47, I was only 17 when I joined the army. And I had to lie and say I'm 18 because they couldn't take anybody below 18. So they knew I was lying, but they needed people, so they took me in. But this way I
Well, there you
finished
go.
when I was 19. I finished a 2-year service. And when I was there, they sent me on missions to build transmitters in different places. And then they put me in charge of a electronic laboratory. So I had a good time just working on electronics while I was in the army. And I probably was saved because I was in a company called Jonathan Company in the army. And when they sent me to Mount Scopus, they had a war, a battle someplace, and they sent my whole company. The commander got killed, and 1/3 of the company got killed. I was saved because I was in Mount Scopus. Then when I came back, I said, "Look, I have this talent. I need a good job." So they put me right there. That was near Tel Aviv. Was pretty safe, and I had a good time there, and it was very good.
So we can
So
see where
right when I
David gets a
finished the
little bit of
army,
his performance side of things, and as far as introducing musical stuff and stories, it comes from his dad having done a lot of programs leading into the army. That's a fantastic story.
I inherited very few of my dad's good qualities, unfortunately.
Well, but we found one. That's
no, it's
important.
not. No, he is my smartest son
Ah,
or child. I have 4 children. He's the smartest one.
All right, I
So
will go along with that. That is true.
yes, he has a lot of talent.
No
No
offense to my
question about
sibling.
that.
that's
Dad,
great.
speaking of intelligence, didn't you tell me once that when you were in high school, you actually taught the teacher how to do a problem?
Oh yeah, I had a teacher. His name was Lulu, Mr. Lulu. He became a parliament member later on. He came for France, and he was trying to explain the Jewish calendar versus the Christian calendar. What is the difference and how they make the calendar? And he got all confused. I stood up and I said to him, Mr. Lulu, sit down. I'll explain to them. And I explained it, and everything was very good. And then when I finished school and people gave me, just a goodbye note, they always mention, we'll never forget the time you taught this thing to Mr. Lulu. And then Lulu became a member of the parliament. He was very talented, but not enough to know how to understand a calendar. You also have the Muslim calendar. You got to know all of this, you know. And everything has its story and its importance, you know. So
Yeah, indeed.
In
Indeed.
1951, you decided to come to the States to go to Newark College of Engineering.
yeah,
Was there a reason?
the
Was there a
only
reason?
reason I went there is because I had an uncle, Uncle Isaac, who lived in Newark, and he got me into the school. It was I was a straight A student, so I sent my certificate. I had all A's, 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 A's. They accepted me right away, and all they charged me is $200 a semester. Would you believe that? That's all I paid. I went there for 4 years. Now,
And that included room and board too, didn't it?
no, no, but I came in Israel. They had a special high school that was created by the Hebrew University. It's there to this day, and they only get the best students in there. So, in order for me to get in, I had to be tested by a couple of teachers, and naturally, I passed all the tests. I had the highest IQ in the school, 156. In my book, it shows 155. I don't know why they took one off. But anyway, so because I had the highest IQ, they had a lot more respect for me. So when I did some things that they didn't like, they said, well, what can we do? You got this. We'll forgive you. And that's it. So
Because you show potential.
that was a very good school. And actually, I had all A's. And then I went to the university. And the first year in college, I repeated my last year in school. It was that kind of a school. It was very advanced. So I had nothing to do. You know, I went out. I had a lot of fun for 1 year. Until the second year, then I started learning a few new things in school. Then I
What was
finished
your?
school,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
and I wanted to get a job. And in Newark, there was a company, it still is, Weston Electric,
Oh
Weston,
yeah.
Weston. And they gave me a job, but for $80 a week. They paid everybody else $100 a week. Me 80 just because I was a foreigner. They told me that. I wasn't an American. I said, okay, you'll see. And they did see because I had this huge invention. I designed an instrument that controlled processes. Like when you do glass, you change the temperature, different things like that. And I did, so they had that kind of an instrument. What I did with mine, I made it do 24 units. I had 24 units that it controlled instead of one. So somebody who had a factory and needed all these units could buy only one instead of 24. So
Wow.
they saved, it's 10,000 a unit, they saved $250,000. So I have in my book, at the end of the book, I have a copy of my patent. So they compensated me, they gave me a raise of 10,000 a year. I said, that's all they give me, 10,000 a year, and they made $20 million a year from that invention. That's not for me. I got to do something. So so I decided to go into real estate. I started building homes in a town called Poughkeepsie, New York. Poughkeepsie is 80 miles north of New York. IBM decided to come there. So I said, if IBM is coming there, they'll need a place to live.
Yeah.
So I should go and start building homes, apartments, everything. So I went over there and I started the real estate. I had a beautiful model, and and I had a big open house. 2 days before open house, I go downstairs. I had a basement that was finished as a recreation room. I see it's leaking water. I said, what the heck am I going to do? There's a leak. But I had to think very quickly. What did I do? I built a brick wall around that corner that was leaking, filled it with dirt, and planted trees and flowers and bushes in there. And it looked absolutely gorgeous, like it was planned this way. I know that 20 years later, I came to the house with my brother, and we went to the owner and asked him, were you happy with my home? He said, very happy. What happened to the planter downstairs? Are you happy? He said, unbelievable. I grow everything there. And it's a funny thing, I don't have to water it. It grows by itself.
Dad, what was your impression of the United States compared to Israel?
Say it again.
What was your impression of the United States compared? How did it compare to Israel? Was it a lot easier living here? Were things more advanced? What did you feel?
No, Israel is pretty advanced. It's easy to live there, but for me it was easy to live there. First of all, my father was a rich person. He gave me anything I wanted. So I didn't have any problem with money or stuff like that I needed. And I had very good friends. No, and the weather is good. It's like California as well. And no, and then we had this idea of getting our own land. That was very, very important to everybody there. And finally, we accomplished it. With the War of Independence in 1948, it became an independent nation. And since then, there were a few million Jews came in. Today, the total population of Jews is about 8 million and 1 million in Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is adored by all the Christians, the Muslims, the whole world. It's like the holiest city in the world. And it really is very exciting to be in that city.
Well, how did you feel about the U.S. when you came here?
How did I feel about the U.S. for what?
When you first came here, when you were going to school in Newark?
I felt very good. I need to raise the volume a little bit. No, I felt very good. Number one, I right away had an uncle. Okay. I had an uncle in Newark who asked me to come there. So he helped me out with everything, got me a place to live, and invited me every Friday night for dinner, Saturday sometimes. Then I had 3 other uncles in this country. And I had a cousin, Lee Seaman. Lee is very big in the Democratic Party. She's so big, she's now 93, and they named a road in Great Neck, New York, after her. She showed me a picture of it. A whole road, Lee Seaman Way, it's called.
Wow.
Her husband died a few years ago. Her husband lived to 103.
Wow.
And she wants to see me. She may come here. We'll see. She's 93 and she's still looking good. And, so I was friends with her. And then I had a friend called Steve that he liked to drive a lot. And we went to Canada to visit different cities over there. We went in the United States to different places. No, I always had a good time. But the best thing that I have to tell you is how I made the first $1 million. People don't believe it probably. It was so easy they don't believe it. I knew that IBM was in the area and that people in IBM need a place to live. Most of them make a regular salary. They can't buy a home. They need to rent an apartment. So I said, I'm going to build some apartments. I look around near Main Street so that it'll be close for people to come to all the markets and places that they need. And I see a beautiful 20 acres just in front of me on a road called Innes Avenue, nearby to where I live there. And it's for sale. Nobody I bought it. I looked around and I see that right next to it, there is an old incinerator. Very ugly incinerator. They burnt all the garbage there, but it wasn't in operation because they got the garbage somewhere else out of town. I check and see, and it belongs to a lawyer who got it. People couldn't pay him the legal fees. They gave him the thing. He said, "I'll sell it to you for 80,000." I gave him $1,500, and he gave me 90 to 120 days to close. Okay, now it was zoned for 1 home per acre. 1 home per acre, that's all. So I decided to rezone it to 24 units per acre. That was R3 instead of R1. Anyway, so I went and I needed 3 votes. Out of 5 councilmen, 3 would be a majority. So I need a minimum of 3 votes to vote for it. So I met with each one, explained to them everything. One of them, I wore a raincoat, London fog from England. The one of them looks at my raincoat. "This is such a beautiful raincoat. Where did you get it?" I said, "Don't worry." I took it off. I said, "Here, it's yours." He said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah, what's a big deal?" I knew he would vote for me. No question about it. So anyway, I talked to everybody, and then they had a meeting. At the meeting, there were 500 people, mostly women, that were against it. "Oh, you're going to bring all these kids in there. We'll need a new school. We need this. We can't do it." The other thing is, one side of the property belonged to people that bought some homes there. 12 homes, little homes. And I told them, if I get the property, I'll give you more room in the backyard so you can put a swimming pool, tennis court. You have a nice backyard, which for me, it's just using 1 acre to cover all these 12 little lots. So they voted for me. They sent a letter to the city. I'm sitting at a meeting with my father, who came from Israel to visit me. And he says, "Michael, you'll never get it approved. Look at all these women. They're driving us crazy." I said, "Dad, relax. Don't worry. Look, what do you know? You're just starting. I did this thing many times. You can't get it. Dad, relax. It's okay." Anyway, towards the end, 3 people voted for me. Who didn't vote? The mayor didn't vote. He was afraid of the women. And the councilman in charge of that area. The rest voted for me.
That's amazing.
I said, "Dad, we just made $1 million. Let's get." So my father, "Let's get that because these women will eat us up alive." Anyway, I went down to LA to look for money. Who do I meet? My father introduces to a guy named Moses. His first name was Moses, and his last name was Moses. And he introduced me to people that came from the Holocaust. 3 people: the Rousman brothers, 2, and Kushner. Kushner is the grandfather of Jared Kushner, who married Trump's daughter.
Wow, I didn't know
Wow.
that.
Yeah. So his grandfather was, and they were building in northern New Jersey, and they were doing very well. So they came and looked at the property and said, "We'll go partner with you. How much do you want for it?" I said, "I want 750,000. Didn't argue with me. Immediately, they thought it was a bargain. So at that point, I made $1.5 million because I got 750 for half, and I have the other half still available, which later on I got even more money. So all of a sudden, I became a millionaire. Then we built that project, and it rented like this. The first weekend, I remember, the roof wasn't finished yet. They were working on the roof. I rented 100 units. And at that time, everything was much cheaper. I rented 1 unit for $90 a month, and 2 units, and 1 bedroom for 90, and 2 bedroom for 135, I think. Anyway, a woman that helped me out with the book looked it up and said, $1 million then is like 8 million today. That's the inflation from 1963. This happened in 1963. So in 50, 60 years, it went up eight times. Today, the same $90 apartment should rent for almost 900.
Wow.
Maybe even more by now. So anyway, so I met these people. They became my partners. They brought in a guy that knows how to build very well, and I met through them a rabbi from Muncie, New York, who wanted to go into the real estate. He did some, was very smart, and he got me to build. At that time, each unit cost $10,000 to build, and the bank would give you 70%, 7,000 a unit. This guy got it all built for 7,000, so I didn't need any extra money either. He got black people from the south to come. They slept in the basement, and they did all the brickwork. They got a very religious guy from Muncie with payers with a yarmulke and needed electricity, all for cheap prices. Got people from Italy to do all the concrete work, also for half the price. So it cost me 7,000 a unit, and I got it from the bank. And all of a sudden, I'm a millionaire. I did once I did all this. There was another property. And I found a way to hide the. I don't want people to get in an apartment and look at the incinerator. I built a high wall around it, and inside I planted trees, bushes, and flowers, and I called the place Town Gardens. It looked absolutely beautiful. When you looked out the window, all you saw is trees and flowers and the wall. That's it.
Now,
So
are these apartment complexes and the incinerator, is that still there today, or is that all changed?
no, I'm sure the apartments are still there. The
Okay.
incinerator, I don't know. Maybe somebody removed it. I have no idea. I haven't been there in many years.
Wow.
I should check into it. It's very interesting to know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
then I bought a property across the street that was right on top of the incinerator. I had to cover everything quite a bit. And I did the same thing. And these people gave me, again, 750,000 for half. By the time I was through with all this thing, I made close to $5 million. Can you imagine that? Then I went a little bit out of town, Maloney Road. I built 500 apartments there. There was no water and no sewer. I dug 4 wells, no, 5 wells, 400 foot deep to get water. And I built a sewer system to clean the sewer because they wouldn't let me build. And they dump it into a river nearby. So I had this. Then I went to Albany. I built there. I went to Syracuse, to Schenectady, and Buffalo. And I did rezone in every one of them at different levels. Then I hear that some dentist in New Jersey inherited 20 acres from his father that's zoned for one family home in Kingston, New York. And he wanted 200,000 for it. I got the thing for the 200, and I rezoned it to apartments. I got an appraisal for $1 million too. So now I made $1 million, and I owed a union $1 million too on another property nearby, and I took that property and gave it to them in payment of the mortgage. So I cleaned up that mortgage. I did all this. So I had $7 million to give to charity, as much as I could. Plus, I spent a lot of money on the women, naturally.
My
I
dad is
went out with a
definitely the
woman.
Hugh Hefner of real
Listen to
estate.
this. I went out with a woman for 12 years. Very beautiful. Then she wanted children. I said, look at me. I'm already 80 years old or whatever. Can't have children now. Look for somebody to marry you. She looked and found somebody young to marry. I made a wedding for her. I paid $100,000 for a beautiful wedding to a woman that's leaving me that I won't see anymore.
Hey, Dad, speaking of women,
But she
tell us
gave
the
me
story
12
of
years of her life. What?
tell us the story of how you met the woman who became my mom, because this is really romantic.
Yes, that is very true. I had a date I lived in New Jersey and I had a date in New York. I went on that date. On the way back, it was like after I had a bad accident. I hit another car, or another car hit me, and they took me to Jersey City Hospital. Who was was my nurse? A woman that eventually became my wife. Anyway, she was my nurse. We got very friendly and everything. Then one day she said, "I hate to disappoint you. I have a boyfriend. He's very rich. He lives on Park Avenue, and he's getting engaged to me. He's giving me a ring." And she leaves. When she left, I always pray to God when I want something. God always does what I want. I come from Jerusalem. He can't say no. So I prayed to God and I said, look, I want this woman. And the sign would be if she comes back without the ring. Okay, I can't wait. The next day she comes in, no ring. I said, what happened? Did I change his mind? No, the ring was too big. You see, my fingers are thin. So he took it to make it smaller. I said, call him up, tell him not to waste his money. You are mine. Anyway, she checked everything and she saw I was making $80 a week. And she has to give up on a guy that lives on Park Avenue. And I said, don't worry, I'll give you everything. So eventually, she decided in my favor. She forgot about the other guy. And we got married. When she got married, I started to give her presents. I gave her first a ring of 1 carat, then 2 carats, then 5 carats. The final one was 20 carats. It was worth $200,000. And I gave her a bracelet, a diamond bracelet, that cost me $250,000, 250,000. So I rezoned her from a nurse to a wealthy, rich woman.
So
Well,
I'm just making a mental note here. Visit Jerusalem, ask God for a woman, and then sit back and be patient. Okay, I got it.
Absolutely. I
I'm good.
guarantee it.
I'm good.
If you don't get the results, let me know. I'll call him.
You'll call him.
Dad, how did you end up on Jimmy Carter's financial campaign?
Yes, my cousin Lee Seaman was very high in the Democratic Party. As you see, they made a road her name in Great Neck, New York, and we were very friendly. So she said, "I'll get you into the White House," and she did. And I got a letter from the White House inviting me to come in and become a consultant, which every month I used to get on a plane in New York, and you don't even buy a ticket. You go in and you pay $24. They go from one seat to the other. You give them $24 and they're in. Then I took my father there one month. He came for a visit. Said, "You want to meet the president? Come with me." We come to the gate and he forgot his passport. They wouldn't let him in. I said, "Don't worry." President Carter told me, every time you need something and you have a problem, call me and I'll do it for you. So I told the people at the gate to call the president. They called the president. He sent the woman, his assistant, over, and they let him in. And they
Wow.
gave him something to put on his chest that is allowed to go in. And he shook the hands of the president. Every 10 minutes, he shakes his hand again and again. The president, I shook your hands 10 times. It's enough. So my father said, "Look, I never knew I would meet the President of the United States. So Carter says to him, you know what? Let's go to my quarters, private quarters, where Lincoln used to live. He took him in there, introduced him to and me, introduced him to his wife, and gave him a good time. And then he signed a note for him to my friend. My father's name was Meir. Very nice. When he came to Israel, people checked the signature to make sure that he has the right. It's not forged. But he loved it that he was able to go into the President of the United States, and to be treated so well. And I
especially the president who got Begin and Sadat together the way he did.
That was a good one too. Yeah. No, he was very nice to this day. He's older than me. He's 96.
Yeah.
Still alive.
What was just going back to the fact that you got this nurse to marry you and then eventually have children? What was our co-host David? What was he like as a little one? Was he a good kid, or was he quite the opposite? Because everybody's dying to know.
No, he was a good. He wasn't a wild kid. He was a very good kid. He even tried to work for me. He was in my office for a while, but he felt it wasn't for him. But he did everything I told him to do. He didn't give me any. He was a very wonderful child. No problems whatsoever.
Did he have a good sense of?
Famous,
Go ahead.
He's named after a famous king in Israel, David. You see, we are descendants of. I have the book of descendants, and my name is there, and David's name. We are descendants of King David, and so is Jesus, because according to the prophecy of the Bible, a Messiah must be a descendant of David. And and I had the book of descendant, and with pictures of a tree with all kinds of leaves and branches. And I once my son Joel had wanted me to give a lecture about Israel, and I told them about our heritage, and I said, believe it or not, Jesus Christ is our cousin. All the kids came out and they bowed to Joel from that day on. You're a cousin of Jesus. And it's true.
I never heard
it's not
this.
like I'm making up a story.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I was a pretty good kid, but admittedly, I was really hyper, and they needed to give me some stuff to calm me down. Eventually, I did get calmed down, but I was a good kid. I never got involved in drugs or any other kind of trouble, but I did mouth off to my dad quite a bit. And I remember my grandmother, she lived with us for a while. My grandmother on my mom's side, she came from the generation where you did not talk back to your parents. So every time I would mouth off to my dad, she would gasp like it was the end of the world, because she never saw anything like it. But I had a mind of my own, and if I didn't agree with something my dad said, I would argue with him, and he would argue back. But I never wanted to be yelled at by him, because he had a very loud, authoritative voice. And it's like that was the worst.
And what do you think, Mr. Bash? What do you think about David's involvement in music? Have you watched that flourish as he grew older and got into doing what he does today? Is that something that was very interesting?
He told me about everything. Yeah. No, and I like it. He loves it.
Yeah.
If you can do something that you love, you're lucky, very lucky. You're happy all the time.
Yep.
It's very important.
Indeed.
Everybody should do what they love to do.
And when I was in college, I remember the whole family went out to dinner one night, and I remember telling my dad, I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm going to make my mark in music somehow, some way. I just always knew in the back of my mind that I mean, at that time, I couldn't have conceived of something like this festival, but I thought, well, maybe I'll work for a major record company or something. But I knew it was going to be something, and thank God it was.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah, indeed.
So how
Now,
did you get, Dad, how did you get involved with the Great Synagogue? Because this is like your biggest, to me, this is
Yeah,
your biggest accomplishment,
yeah.
honestly.
One day, two people walked into my office in New York. I had an office in New York in a very nice place on 57th Street and Fifth Avenue. Gorgeous building. And I was on the 46th floor because the building wasn't finished yet. And the highest floor was finished was 46. Eventually they finished it and they rented it to Deutsche Bank, a German bank upstairs, the whole floor. Beautiful area. So what were we talking about? What was I going?
The Great Synagogue.
Yes, so two people came in. One of them was from England. And he said to me, you know, we all need to have a new temple. Our temple was destroyed, and now there is a Muslim mosque over there. If we destroy that mosque, all the Muslims will cause a tremendous revolution. They'll kill everybody. It'll be terrible. So we have to leave it alone. So we need to build a synagogue or a mosque. It's the same, or a temple, which is the same thing. And they said, we found a piece of property on King George Street, number 60, next to the center of all the rabbinical people, all the rabbis go next door. It's called the Palace of Solomon. And we would like you to help us out to raise the money in order to build that synagogue. I said, by all means, you got the right guy. So we signed the papers and everything, and we got some Jewish guy came in and said, "Here, I'll give you $100,000 for the synagogue." I said, "On one condition." I said, "What's the condition?" That you don't ask me to go to the synagogue. I'm an atheist. I said, "You're an atheist, so how come you give me the money? I'm still Jewish. I got to help my brothers."
That's
Here
good.
you are.
That's funny.
Anyway, we raised, I think we raised about $20 million for this thing. And they gave me the whole thing, to prove that it's in my book. The last few pages, I have all this document, the people that they gave it to me. It was a beautiful synagogue, still is. Then I went together with my wife. We prayed and we met all the people. And I had the women on the second floor on the, what do you call it when you have, like in a theater, you have the
A
floor
balcony.
and the balcony. I put a machine there, stairs that move up and down by themselves. So when the women come in to sit there, because it was an Orthodox synagogue where men and women were separated, they didn't have to walk. They just stood on the
Escalator.
the moving stairs and went up there. So that was a good invention. It was a good thing to do.
Yeah.
That's how I got that synagogue. Yeah.
Now, the book that you allude to,
yes.
what book is this? You've talked about your book. I'm interested. What book is this?
That's my latest book. Just 1 second. I have it here. It looks beautiful.
$1 Million Miracle?
Yes. $1 Million Miracle. How to make $1 million in 1 day and never have to work again.
I love it. I
You
love
have
it.
$1 million. You don't spend it. You lend it to safe places, and you live on the interest.
Yeah, there
And
you
if
go.
it's not enough, you make another $1 million. And it's not so difficult to do. I've been doing it since then. Now I'm retired for the past 4 years, and now I'm going to start again and get a couple of million also to help out my children and all this, to help out David too. So once we get that,
David certainly needs it.
You heard it here first, David.
David not to worry about anything. Now, before that, I wrote another book that's called Evolution by God. One of the PhD that read the book and gave me a beautiful review said, people may not understand it now. In 30 years, they'll discover it. It'll become a very big you won't be around. It'll be the bestseller. I have a chapter there that I love everybody to read. It's called Building a Better World. I show how to make the world perfect, almost perfect. It's called Evolution by God. You should get it. You don't even have to pay back. I can arrange the date without giving a few copies. But it's a very good book.
There you go.
Now, I have several books called Evolution by God, because I was always interested in religion. And they're also very good books. I have 3 others that I did.
Yeah, we kind of lost his connection, David, or
And maybe it'll come back.
It'll come back. Where are these books available? Are these on Amazon, Michael, David?
Well, it looks like we lost Dad. It looks like we lost your audio.
Yeah.
I believe the $1 Million Miracle is on Amazon.
Okay.
Evolution by God, not sure, but I guess we can look. I'll find out.
That's great. No, that's very interested. I'm sure people that watch
They're
this are
both
going to want
really
to know.
they're both really good, actually.
Want to know where we can find those as well. That's awesome. I mean, we're waiting. I don't know if Joshua can hear us, but Joshua's back in the picture. I think he's trying to help out. But hopefully you get your dad back. Man, what an interesting hour this has been, David. You told me your dad's done a lot, but
Well, we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
I'll
Dad,
bet.
we still can't hear you, unfortunately.
It's all right.
So since the hour's almost over anyway, we should probably just say goodbye.
Yeah.
Dad, thank you so much for taking the time and for telling us about your life. It really is something.
Yes, indeed. It's been an absolute pleasure. You start listening to these stories, and this is just the kind of person I want to grab a little glass of scotch, sit down in a big comfortable chair in front of a fire, and listen to him for about 6 or 8 hours. This has been so interesting, David. Great call and getting your dad on here. Sure.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, the thing I think the strongest, most salient core trait that my dad has is and he's always had, and I wanted to ask him how he thinks he got it, is tremendous self-confidence. It's something I wish I had. It's something that I wish I had attained from him. I've never had it myself.
Hold on a second. He's trying to
get him back.
Oh, can you
pop
see
back
me
up. There
now?
he is. Yep, there we go.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Very good.
I was just telling Mark that you have such tremendous self-confidence, and it served you well throughout your whole life.
Not high enough. The voice.
Oh, he's not hearing.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, now he's back out again.
All right, you know what? Let's just drop him.
Yep.
Yeah, it's okay because we had a fun hour and a great interview, and yeah, he's had tremendous self-confidence, and it served him so well in his life. It's helped him accomplish so many things that he probably otherwise wouldn't have.
Well, please give him a call after this is all done, so he knows we wrapped it up. And my thanks for him being a guest on the show, and quite something.
Thanks,
quite something.
Appreciate that.
Really good.
I really admire him for sure.
Indeed. And you said he's how old?
He's 90.
90. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. He's trying to get back on here. I'm hold on, because he probably wants to say good night. If my
Hopefully. Well, I don't. He may not be aware. It's
there he is.
over.
Oh, now it's good.
I did.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can
We
you hear
can
us,
hear you
Mr.
now.
Bash?
Yes.
Yeah, we're very low, but I can hear you.
Okay, David, go ahead.
Well, I was
Okay,
just
so
going to
I'm
say,
writing
Dad.
a new book
Okay.
that only the men would like it. It's called "You Are young as the woman you feel." Not you're young as you feel, as the woman you feel. So
Okay,
if you want to feel young, you got to go out with young women, and then you feel very young. The book
finally,
should be ready in a couple of months.
finally, I
gave
see
him
where
quite
David gets some
approval.
things from.
Now, my wife is only 4 years
Approval.
younger than me, and I'm very happy.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, thank
But-
you again, Mr. Bash, for being a guest. This has been an absolute pleasure, my friend.
Okay, the same here.
Yes,
I'm
indeed.
glad I talked to you.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you very
And
much.
if you need anything, let me know. Call me.
We will.
And you'll call the
have a
big
good
guy
year.
for me.
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
Bye.
have a
Good night,
day,
Mr.
Dad.
Bash. Have a great night. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
That's
so
funny.
funny. I didn't even know about that title. You're as young as a woman you feel. Well, look, after when my mom passed, my dad had always said that he never saw her as anything but the young woman that he married. So for that reason, I guess he's always been interested in young women, and he has dated a lot of them since. He didn't start right away. He waited 2 years after she passed, and he joined a bunch of dating services where he could meet young women, and it worked. He met several, and I might add several hotties for sure.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
He married one of. Well, actually, I think he married a couple. Unfortunately, the first marriage got annulled. The second one lasted a while, but eventually ended in divorce. But he has been in a few very long-term relationships since then. Yeah, I have to say, that's why I say he's the Hugh Hefner of real estate. But interestingly, I always said, Dad, why don't you go meet Hugh Hefner? I mean, you would have the pick of the litter. I mean, first of all, you and Hef would get along really well because you're both intellectuals, you're both around the same age, and you both have this thing for young women. So he would probably welcome you in and set you up. But he always felt like the women in Playboy were kind of sleazy, and he never wanted to indulge. I kept saying they're really not. They're a lot of them are fine young women, who just saw an opportunity and took it.
Yeah.
But he never wanted to do it. It's a shame because there are a number of people that he knew that probably could have arranged it, but never did it.
Yeah. Well, that's great, man. Great stories, though. Great stories. Again, as I said, he'd be great to just sit around with a glass of scotch for a bunch of hours and just shoot the shit. So
I tried to be like my dad because I admired him so much, but I just didn't have it in me.
You still got time. You've got 27 years before you're his age.
That's right. That's true. But I'm not. I mean, I'm happy doing what I'm doing, and I'm very happy being married to Rena. I couldn't live his lifestyle.
But he said it best. If you're happy doing what you're doing, that's the important thing. So
that's very, very true.
Yeah, indeed.
And I wouldn't trade IPO for anything else. I mean, God, I hope I never have to work in an office, because if I do, you can just find me from the nearest tree hanging, because I am not a team player. I have to be the man. And if I'm not the man, I want nothing to do with it. So, so there you have it.
There you go. And speaking, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, we have a lot of really cool guests coming up on Material Issues. We're back to the music thing. Next week I'll be counting down my top 100 and possibly more.
Right.
The following week, we have the great Dave Faulkner, the main man of Hoodoo Gurus, our first Australian guest. And actually, technically, it'll be Thursday morning when he's interviewed. It'll be Thursday at 10 o'clock in Sydney. So, so it'll be our first. Non-Wednesday. Following week, we have the great Dwight Twilley, who we'd had scheduled in December. It didn't work out, and but now it will, I'm sure. And now we have a couple of other guests that I hadn't announced because we hadn't had them yet. On February 2nd, we have the great man himself, Mr. Gilbert O'Sullivan, will be on Material Issues on February 2nd. For those of you who don't know, he's still performing. He's still putting out albums, and they're still all really good. He really has not lost his knack for writing a hooky melodic tune. I mean, the radio's just not right for it. But if the radio is like it is, if the radio was like it was in 1972, he'd be having hits with what he's writing now. He's still got it. So we're really looking forward to that. And then on February 9th, we have the main man of the great mod band, the Jet Set, Mr. Paul Beauvoir. I'm a huge fan. Paul has played IPO Liverpool a few times. I'm one day hoping for a nice Jet Set reunion. Who knows if that'll ever happen. But in the meantime, Paul just released an album. I don't have it yet. It's going to be a 2022.
He'll be back. David's touching his microphone. There he is.
Mark, are you back?
Yep, we're back. Yeah. There you go. Now you're gone. He'll be back. But David was talking about just running down everything we've got coming up. So that takes us into February 9th is Paul Beauvoir. And then we've got you're back. Cool.
Here's what happens, and this is why I maybe can't use my phone for doing this. If I get a call during the broadcast, it knocks me off. Yeah. Is there a way to stop that?
There's got to be a way to turn your incoming call notifications off. It's the notification that messes everything up. So,
is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I think if you can mute that or something, it'll work. But
I'll figure it out because I certainly like this picture a lot better than than with my laptop camera.
I was just telling everybody that after Paul Beauvoir, that's February 9th. We've got even more more coals in the fire, so to speak. So possibly some cool announcements coming up for later in February as well. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, or if you haven't told all your friends and you've shared it, make sure everybody knows this is the place where you're going to get some cool interviews, not only music oriented, but some non-music oriented things too, with some music things that tied in. It's all just material issues. So make sure you let everybody know, because David and I are having a great time doing this. So we just like to share this with everybody.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Well, Mark, this was a lot of fun as always.
Yes, indeed.
Sorry you won't be with us next week, although you will, I guess.
I'll be on the fringe. Yeah, I just can't. I can't be live while I'm doing some basketball PA announcing, which will be a little too noisy.
Well, if I hear a 3 in the background, then I'll know.
Andy tells you, do not disturb icon in your notification bar.
I'll figure it out.
It's all good. Thank you, Andy. Thanks for watching, Andy. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, as always. All right. Anyway, have a great night, and to everyone who's still with us, Happy New Year. I should have said that at the beginning, probably, but whatever.
This was our first show. This is our first show of 2022. So happy New Year to everybody.
Don't eat the Soylent Green. But,
but if you do, in moderation.
very, very much so.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. David, be good. We'll talk to you real soon.
You got it. Thanks, Mark. Take
care,
everyone.
Peace.